Have you ever stopped to think about well, how one single industry kind of quietly shapes almost everything you see? Brand messages, how you find products, even just how you get your news.
We're talking about advertising, obviously, but maybe not just the flashy ads themselves.
Exactly. We mean the huge and honestly rapidly changing world of the agencies behind those ads.
Yeah, it's a massive ecosystem.
So today, we're going to try and cut through some of that complexity. We want to give you the clearest, most useful takeaways from a real deep dive into the global advertising agency's service market.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Our source today is pretty comprehensive. It's a market research report from Cognitive Market Research called Global Advertising Agencies Market, Performance and Forecast to 2033.
And our job really is to boil down the key insights from all that data. We're looking at three main years, 2021 as a baseline, 2025 as a near-term check-in, and then forecasting out to 2033.
Right. Covering global trends, regional differences, even down to specific countries.
It's kind of a shortcut, a way to quickly get up to speed on the big forces at play here.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture. Globally, back in 2021, this market, the advertising agency services, it clocked in sales revenue just shy of $33 billion.
Which is already a substantial number.
It is. But here's where it gets interesting. By 2025, it's projected to hit over $40 billion. And then looking out to 2033, the forecast is around $62 billion.
Oh.
Yeah. That works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of about 5.4%. And, a CAGR isn't just a simple increase year on year.
No, it signifies that consistent compounding growth. It suggests, real underlying confidence in where this market is headed long term.
What's really striking, I think, is that this demand for everything from creative ideas to media planning, digital stuff, full service support, it isn't some flash in the pan. It points to a really fundamental ongoing need for businesses like everywhere across all sorts of sectors to connect with people, and they need to do it in ways that are getting more and more sophisticated.
Absolutely. The methods change, the platforms change, but that core need persists and even grows.
So why should you, listening right now, care about all this? Well, maybe you're prepping for a meeting, or maybe you just want to understand a field that's changing so fast.
Or maybe you're just curious about what actually drives global business and communication. It touches so many things.
Exactly. This deep dive, think of it as your shortcut to being properly informed. Understanding these trends can give you those aha moments, about the forces shaping the world around you, online and off.
Okay, so let's set the stage. We're going to dive into the regional breakdowns now.
Yeah, because that's where you really start to see some surprising things, where the growth is happening and maybe why it's happening differently in different places.
So just to recap quickly, the overall global market is growing steadily, robustly even, driven by this consistent demand for all kinds of advertising help.
But it's not just about spending more money overall. It's also about where that money is going, how it's being spent. There are shifts happening.
Definitely. And leading the pack, maybe not too surprisingly, is North America. The report calls it a dominant force.
Okay, let's see the numbers.
In 2021, North America brought in over $12 billion in revenue. That's billion with a B.
Right.
And it's projected to climb to over $22 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of almost 5%, 4.974% to be precise.
So nearly 5%, that's solid growth for sure. But for a market often seen as mature, like North America, what does that tell us? Is it just more of the same?
That's a really good point. I think while the growth is strong, it points towards maybe market maturity and optimization. It's not just about getting bigger. Meaning the focus is probably shifting towards more sophisticated data analytics, using cutting-edge ad tech, really integrating campaigns across different channels. It's about getting smarter, more efficient.
Okay, so it's where a lot of the foundational innovation might still be happening.
Exactly. And within North America, the U.S. obviously makes up the bulk of it. It went from over $10 billion in 2021.
Wow, the lion's share.
Yeah, to an estimated $18 billion plus by 2033. That's a CAGR just under 5%. Around 4.86%.
Still very solid. What about Canada and Mexico?
They're showing really robust growth, too. Canada's CAGR is projected over 5.7%, going from about $1.3 billion to over $2.5 billion. And Mexico's is also strong, around 5.2% CAGR, growing from roughly $800 million to nearly $1.5 billion. So, yeah, the whole region is performing well.
Okay, so North America is strong, mature, but still innovating. Let's hop across the Atlantic now to Europe. You mentioned it's more of a mosaic there.
Yeah, definitely more varied. The economies are different. Digital adoption isn't uniform. It paints a more complex picture.
What are the overall numbers for Europe?
So the region as a whole was about $8.5 billion in 2021. The forecast for 2033 is over $15 billion. That's a regional TGR of just over 5%.
Pretty comparable to North America's overall rate, then.
As a whole, yes. But when you break it down, well, Germany really stands out.
Oh, how so?
Germany's showing one of the highest CAGRs in Europe, almost 5.8%. It's projected to grow from around $1.6 billion to over $3.2 billion. That's quite a surge for an established economy.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
Any clues in the report why Germany is doing so well relatively?
It seems to be a combination of things. A strong industrial base that's really embracing digital transformation, high digital adoption generally. Basically, its traditional industries are demanding more advanced agency support as they modernize.
Makes sense. What about other major European markets? UK, France?
The UK is also showing strong growth, about $1.3 billion in 2021, projected to reach around $2.5 billion by 2033. That's a TEG of roughly 5.4%.
Okay.
France is a bit lower, growing from nearly $1.2 billion to almost $2 billion, with CAG around 4.5%.
So a bit slower than the UK and Germany.
Yeah. And then you see quite a mix elsewhere. Italy's CAGR is solid, around 4.65%. Spain is strong at about 5.3%. Sweden also over 5.2%. But then you have Russia, which is more moderate at around 3.6% CAGR. Denmark is around 4.7%. Switzerland about 4.4%. And Luxembourg actually has the lowest in the report for the region, just over 3%.
So it really highlights those different economic conditions and maybe varying speeds of digital uptake across the continent.
Exactly. It's not one single story in Europe.
Yeah. Right. Now let's talk Asia Pacific, APAC, because the report suggests this region is really where some explosive digital growth is happening.
Oh, absolutely. The numbers reflect that. APAC started at over $6.5 billion in 2021.
Okay.
But it's forecasted to soar to almost $14 billion by 2033. And get this, the regional CAGR is the highest globally, around 6.5%.
6.5%. That's significant. Who's leading that charge?
Well, India is specifically highlighted. The report calls it an emerging digital powerhouse.
Right.
India has the highest CAGR in the region, over 7.4%. It's projected to jump from just under $900 million in 2021 to over $2.1 billion by 2033.
Wow, more than doubling. What does that signal?
I think it signals a massive leapfrogging effect. You have huge numbers of new consumers coming online, often mobile first. This drives incredible demand for digital, mobile-centric, culturally tuned advertising.
So that's maybe where we'll see some really new innovative approaches emerge, driven by that unique market dynamic.
It's very possible. That scale and speed of digital adoption is unprecedented. China is also a huge factor, of course.
Naturally. What are China's numbers?
China shows really substantial growth, too. Around a 6.7% CAGR. It's expected to grow from over $1.9 billion to over $4.1 billion.
Also very strong. And it's not just India and China driving the whole region.
Not at all. Japan's CAGR is nearly 5.9%. Singapore is projected to almost triple its market size, hitting nearly $600 million by 2033 with a CAG over 6.8%.
Triple. Wow.
Yeah. And Southeast Asia as a whole is showing a CAGR over 7.1%. Taiwan's also strong at over 6.2%.
It really paints a picture of a digital revolution sweeping across pretty much the entire APAC region.
It really does. Very dynamic.
Okay, let's move on. What about South America?
South America shows a steady climb. The market there was nearly $2.5 billion back in 2021.
Right.
And it's expected to reach almost $4.8 billion by 2033. That's growing at about a 5.7% CAGR overall for the region.
Still quite healthy growth. Any particular countries driving that?
Brazil leads in terms of market size and contributes significantly with a CAGR around 5.5%. But other countries show strong growth rates too, like Argentina at over 6.2% CAGR and Chile at nearly 5.9%.
So consistent growth across key markets there.
Pretty much, yeah. A steady climb.
And the Middle East. I remember seeing some strong momentum mentioned there, too.
Yes, definitely. The Middle East generated over $1.9 billion in 2021. It's projected to hit over $3.7 billion by 2033.
And the growth rate?
A solid CAGR of around 5.6%. And within the region, the UAE is particularly notable.
How so?
The UAE shows a CAGR over 6.1%. It's going from around $360 million to over $750 million by 2033, so more than doubling its market size.
Significant investment there.
Absolutely. Saudi Arabia also shows strong growth, projected to go from about $440 million to nearly $870 million. And Turkey is also robust, with a CAGR near 6%.
It seems like regions like the Middle East and APAC are really investing heavily as their economies diversify.
That seems to be a key driver. Moving beyond traditional industries often means a bigger need for sophisticated branding and advertising.
Okay, one last region to cover. Africa. What's the story there? Emerging potential.
That's a good way to put it. Africa's market was over $1.1 billion in 2021. The forecast for 2033 reaches over $2.1 billion.
So almost doubling. And the CGR.
Around 5%. Maybe not quite as high as some of the other emerging regions we discussed, but still very significant, steady development.
Which countries stand out?
Nigeria is projected to grow from about $195 million to over $380 million. South Africa is expected to grow from over $480 million to nearly $1 billion by 2033.
Nearly $1 billion for South Africa alone.
Yeah, and its CAGR is around 5.5%, so definitely encouraging signs of solid, consistent development, especially considering the huge untapped potential across the continent.
It's fascinating how the growth numbers are strong pretty much everywhere, but the story behind that growth feels different in each region.
Absolutely.
So let's try and pull back again. What are the core global forces driving all this growth? You mentioned digital earlier.
Fundamentally, yes. It's the unstoppable rise of digital advertising in all its forms. But it's also about the constant need for brands to, well, reposition themselves in markets that change so fast.
And needing help navigating that complexity.
Exactly. Integrated media strategies are getting incredibly complex. It's not just TV and print anymore. It's managing social, video, influencers, search, programmatic. It's a lot.
You need expert help.
You really do. And think about the shift towards things like TikTok, Instagram Reels. The explosion in video content alone demands really creative, agile agency support.
So if we connect this back to the regional picture, you have mature markets like North America and Europe, innovating, refining.
Right, pushing the boundaries on tech and data.
While emerging economies in APAC,
Yeah.
the Middle East, Africa, are maybe catching up fast, adopting digital rapidly, fueling growth in different ways.
Precisely. And all that together creates this really significant global shift in, well, where the media money is going and how it's being used. Dynamics are changing.
Which means, for you listening, you're literally experiencing these shifts every single day. You might not even realize it. The way brands pop up in your social feed, the types of stories they tell, how they reach you on your phone versus your laptop versus maybe even smart speakers soon.
It's all part of this huge growing industry finding new ways to connect.
It's easy to just see the big numbers, billions of dollars. But it's not just agencies getting bigger. It feels like they're becoming essential guides.
Like navigators.
Yeah, like high-tech navigators for brands trying to find their way through this like jungle of algorithms and constantly shifting consumer attention spans.
That's a good analogy. This whole deep dive really shows that the advertising agency's service market isn't just growing, it's experiencing steady, sustainable growth pretty much worldwide.
And it's this fascinating dance, isn't it? Established markets innovate, emerging markets accelerate.
And together, they're fueling this fundamental global shift in how marketing works, how budgets are spent.
It really does make you think differently about influence, communication, and just how the modern economy functions.
It does.
So the big so what for the future? What does this all point towards? Given this really strong growth, especially in digital and integrated strategies, how different will things look by 2033?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Could these agencies fundamentally reshape how we even discover products? Or how we consume information? Or maybe even just how we connect with the world?
It's possible. The tools and techniques are evolving so rapidly.
And what comes next? What innovations, maybe beyond the digital trends we already see, do you think will be needed to keep this growth going for another decade? Or even push it higher?
That's a great question to leave people mulling over. It definitely invites more thought, more exploration.
Well, the journey of discovery never really ends, does it? We hope this deep dive has given you some useful insights and maybe sparked some new questions.
We hope so too. Keep digging, keep asking why.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring and keep being curious.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through all the noise and really hone in on the insights that matter. Today, we are plunging into, well, A really fascinating space, maybe even a bit dizzying, the global advertising agency service market. I mean, this isn't just an industry changing, it feels like it's almost reinventing itself,
Yeah.
from the ground up. The big question isn't if these agencies will change, but maybe more like who's going to make it? Who thrives in this new world, and what does creativity even look like now? So our mission today is to try and unearth some maybe unexpected insights from this whole whirlwind of transformation.
That's such a crucial point. Because what we're seeing, it's not just like a simple evolution. It feels
Yeah.
more fundamental, like a rewiring.
Hmm.
And it's driven by these huge shifts in how we all behave as consumers, this relentless digital disruption, and just the sheer explosion of places where ads can even appear now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not just looking at what's changing, but really digging into why. Why is this altering how businesses talk to us? And I suppose what makes an ad actually work today?
Precisely. So for this deep dive, we're going to explore, okay, what's really pushing the growth? Then, what are the big hurdles, the things holding progress back? And finally, what are the exciting innovations that are really shaping the future for these agencies? We want to give you a comprehensive but hopefully uniquely insightful picture of it all. Okay, let's unpack this. All right, let's jump straight into what's really powering this market forward. The first thing is pretty obvious, but the scale is immense. The surge in digital and social media advertising, it's not just growing, it's like it fundamentally changed agencies. They went from being, traditional creative shops to needing to be these performance-driven tech operations.
Exactly. That migration from traditional stuff like print or TV to digital platforms created this undeniable need. Agencies now absolutely need skills in things like programmatic buying.
Which is basically using AI, right? Algorithms to automatically bid on ad space in real time.
Yeah, precisely. And sophisticated social strategy, knowing how to work with influencers, it's about really mastering platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of them.
And the focus has shifted dramatically, hasn't it? It's all about measurable ROI now, precise targeting, actually tracking the campaigns. It's way beyond just hoping for impressions.
Definitely. And that desire for measurable ROI, it feeds directly into the next big driver we're seeing, which is this huge demand for data-driven marketing and, importantly, personalization. In today's world as a consumer, you just expect relevancy, don't you?
You really do. Irrelevant ads are just noise.
Exactly. So agencies are becoming vital because they can take all this data and turn it into, well, genuinely actionable insights. They're not just tweaking messages, they're optimizing whole budgets, refining customer journeys from start to finish.
So it's not creativity or data science anymore.
Not at all. It's the fusion. It has
Okay.
to be both. Combining that creative spark with hard intelligence to actually drive conversions and, maximize real impact, it's art and science colliding constantly.
Okay, so we've touched on data defining what to say, but what about how they're saying it? That brings us to something I find really fascinating, the evolution of content marketing and brand storytelling.
Oh yeah, that's huge. People are just tired of the hard sell, aren't they? Completely fatigued by it. They seem to gravitate much more towards authentic stories, engaging narratives.
So agencies that are really investing in that, branded storytelling, maybe through immersive video or really emotion-rich content, they're building much stronger ties with clients.
And more than that, they're almost blurring the lines. Agencies are starting to look a bit like media publishers themselves. Brands become the storytellers, and the agencies, they're like the executive producers. They're competing directly for our attention, sometimes bypassing traditional ad buys entirely. It's a subtle but powerful shift, like a quiet revolution.
Oh, right. But okay, while there's all this growth and innovation, it's definitely not smooth sailing. There are some big challenges, some restraints.
For sure. And one major one, it creates this really interesting tension, is the intense pressure around performance metrics, that ROI accountability we mentioned.
Clients want proof, right? Terrible results. Show me the money.
Exactly. Which is understandable, of course. But it can sometimes lead to fee erosion for the agencies. Everyone's squeezing margins. And paradoxically, it might even restrict genuine creative innovation sometimes.
How so?
Well, agencies might feel pressured to focus only on short-term metrics, things that are easy to measure and prove quickly. And that could come at the expense of, long-term brand building, or maybe taking a risk on a truly groundbreaking campaign that might take longer to pay off.
That's a really crucial point. And it feels directly linked to another big issue, the talent shortage, the skills gap.
Oh, absolutely. Technology is just moving so incredibly fast, especially things like AI, data science, automated media buying. There's this widening gap between the skills agencies need and the skills their people actually have.
Finding someone who can do both the creative and the tech side must be tough.
It really is. Agencies are genuinely struggling to hire, or even just upskill, their existing teams to find people who can blend that creative thinking with deep technical know-how. Think about it, finding someone who's equally brilliant at crafting a beautiful brand story and optimizing an AI bidding algorithm. That's rare, and it limits how well they can scale their services, how much they can truly innovate.
And this complexity, it doesn't stop there, does it? What about just the sheer number of places ads can be now?
That fragmentation of media channels is another huge challenge. It's almost overwhelming. You've got your OTT platforms and ad-supported streaming services changing the game for TV ads.
Like Netflix with ads or Hulu.
Exactly. Then there's programmatic audio, podcasts like this one, and newer spaces, community-focused ones like Discord or Threads. These demand totally different engagement strategies, much more organic.
So agencies have a tough choice. Either specialize really deeply in just a few channels.
Right, become true experts in one niche. Or they try to cover everything, which means forming these complex strategic alliances, partnering up. But that just multiplies the operational complexity. And especially for mid-sized agencies, trying to be masters of everything can really dilute their strategic focus. It stretches them thin.
Okay, so hurdles are definitely there. But despite those, there are some really exciting trends emerging too, reshaping things, maybe even offering solutions.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the most talked about, you can't avoid it, is the rapid adoption of AI and automation in managing campaigns.
AI isn't just hype then, it's actually being used.
Oh, absolutely. These intelligent systems are being used for accuracy, for agility, for performance, in ways that honestly felt like science fiction just a decade ago. We're seeing practical examples like real-time budget optimization, AI adjusting spending on the fly, automated A/B testing for creative, even AI generating initial ad copy or visuals.
So it's not just about cutting costs or reducing workload.
Well, it does that too, reducing the manual grind. But more importantly, it enables much faster campaign iterations. Testing and learning cycles are accelerated, and it allows for hyper-personalization at a scale that was just impossible before. It's less about replacing people, I think, and more about supercharging them, giving them better tools.
Interesting. And connecting that back to the complexity issue, are we seeing agencies change their structure to cope?
Yes, and it's leading to significant growth in integrated full-service agencies. Think about it from the client's perspective. They often don't want the headache of juggling 5 different specialist vendors, one for strategy, one for creative, one for media buying, one for analytics. It's a nightmare to manage.
Makes sense.
So these full service agencies, the ones offering an end-to-end suite all under one roof, they're proving really attractive.
Yeah.
They can deliver more cohesive brand narratives, simplify management for the client. It's particularly appealing for big companies, large enterprises that need consistency across maybe global campaigns.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, almost paradoxical maybe. Because at the exact same time we're seeing the rise of these huge integrated agencies, we're also seeing this parallel, really vigorous growth of super specialized niche boutique agencies.
That's absolutely right. It's fascinating. As media channels themselves become more specialized, brands are often turning to these smaller, more agile agencies that have incredibly deep understanding of just one specific vertical or platform.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so think maybe a content studio that only works with fintech companies. They know that sector inside out. Or an agency that is exclusively focused on TikTok influencer marketing. They live and breathe that platform, understand exactly what resonates with Gen Z there.
Right, totally specialized.
Exactly. And these boutiques, they really appeal to startups, to direct-to-consumer brands in particular. They offer that laser-focused expertise, often faster turnaround times, and a much more personalized, hands-on service.
Yeah.
It feels less like a big corporate contract and more like a dedicated partnership. So you've got this simultaneous push towards massive integration and hyper-specialization happening in the market. It's a real push and pull.
So, okay, let's try and wrap this up. What does this all mean for you listening? Whether you're, building a brand, running a business, or maybe just a curious consumer watching all this happen.
I think the core message from this deep dive is pretty clear. The advertising agency world is going through this profound kind of dual-pronged evolution.
Definitely.
And for agencies to really succeed, they absolutely have to find that sweet spot, that balance between creativity, that spark, and rigorous data analysis. They need to embrace truly omni-channel strategies, thinking about all the touch points, and just constantly adapt to this ever-shifting media and tech landscape. There's no standing still. This raises a really important question, I think. What opportunities does this evolving market actually present, especially for those who are ready to navigate all this complexity? The opportunities are definitely vast, but yeah, the demands are huge too. Demands for radical transparency, for top-tier talent that can bridge those gaps we talked about, and for really integrated technology. And maybe for us as consumers, it makes you think, how will these shifts actually impact our own interactions with brands and marketing going forward? Will ads become so personalized they don't even feel like ads anymore, more like helpful suggestions?
It really does make you wonder. Perhaps something for you to mull over after this is, well, how will this increasing blend of AI, of machine intelligence with human creativity ultimately redefine what creativity even means in advertising? Is the future creative genius a human using AI tools? Or maybe an AI that learns from and even replicates human ingenuity? Or think about it from a business perspective, especially a smaller one. How do you even begin to navigate that choice between a huge full service agency that offers everything and one of these super focused niche specialists in this incredibly complex, fragmented environment? Lots to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.